And welcome to the Traveling Homesteader. I'm Kat, and as you can see, I'm in the greenhouse. Now you're thinking, lady, it's January, it's the middle of winter. Why are you in your greenhouse? And it's the perfect time of the year to get seeds, to actually start ordering your seeds and looking over what you want to grow for the season now. And so that's why I'm in the greenhouse, because I want to make sure that my greenhouse is ready for when I want to put in my new plants. But I got to look in the catalogs. But where do you look? So some places that you might want to consider. One that is local to me is this Territorial Seed. And I happen to be able to just go right down to their shop and in Cottage Grove and pick up this particular one. But you can also go online and to get their catalog. But I'll put the link down below for this one and for several others that we'll talk about. So late one night, about a week ago, I decided to just go and order all the catalogs I could think of. And as I did that, there were more that I thought of along the way. So I ordered Territorial Seed, but I did get it right at the store too, because I was down that way. But when I was in my local grocery store, Safeway, I found this, the biggest seed catalog ever. I mean, look at that. I mean, this is a huge, beautiful catalog. Now, I ended up getting this one actually for my mom for her birthday. Like I said, I bought it at my local grocery store, Safeway. You could probably find something similar at like Albertsons or Kroger, or I was thinking about there's some different stores, maybe even Stop and Shop, depending on where you are in the United States. Any store with a magazine section. And of course, like Barnes & Noble or any local bookstore that you might be able to go to would probably have something like this. But going through the catalogs, you're able to see a lot of different things. And this particular one, it actually also offers recipes for some of the things that you could grow in your garden, which is a nice thing to have. Now, because I bought this at the grocery store, this one ended up being $12.95. So on the barcode, you can kind of tell. So if you're not interested in actually buying this one, you may be able to call up the company and get it for free. Or you can call other companies like Territorial. Or there's Burpees, there's Gurney's, there's Gray's Nursery. There's a whole host of cool, good seed catalogs that you can just call for their catalog or go online to their website. And again, you'll be seeing, I hope, down below some websites that you can go to access some of these catalogs. But the cool thing about getting seeds now is that you can see a whole host of things that you can grow. Now, in my case, I do like growing flowers to attract the bees that you may have heard about me talking about before. So I like to look at the different flowers. And so I try to grow some from seed. I try to have some in bulbs so throughout the year to have flowers for the bees. But I also like to try to do different things. And one thing I tried a couple of years ago were these Tomatillos. Now here at Territorial, they have a green one, but it looks like they have a yellow one as well. So as I think about my garden, I try to look through the catalog and say, well, I tried these with some success, but I may want to try that just to see how they taste. Maybe a little different, similar, or maybe I can grow them both and combine them. But we can also think about the things that we like to eat. My last year's garden didn't go quite as I had hoped, but I was able to get, my basil grew really well. And so I was able to make a nice batch of pesto for I think I got about 14 plants of basil that I was able to use to make pesto. But I was also able to put some of that basil into my tomato sauce, which I was really glad about. But you can also look at maybe onions or squash or peppers. Now, they have a whole host of nice varieties of peppers, both hot peppers and sweet peppers. Peppers you can dry, like the cayenne peppers down here are really good for drying, but the bell peppers are usually a little bit better, I think, for using fresh in things. You can do, a friend up the road, they grow poblano peppers for making some Mexican dishes with them. stuffed poblanos, and they're really good. But that's the cool part about doing seeds now, is that you can determine your garden. And beyond our greenhouse, you may be able to see out here some beds and some posts, and that's our garden. So having your greenhouse set up, if you have that luxury, is really kind of nice, because then you can know kind of where you're going to plant what. Now here, this particular greenhouse, I got as a bit of a gift from my mom early on. When my parents moved out to Oregon about 20 years ago, I got looking around at different places, and there was a neighbor up the way who was moving about 6 months after. They were having a yard sale, I think the summer I got here. And they were trying to get rid of this structure, but it was just a frame. There was no roofing on it. There was no windows or anything. And I said, hey, can you help me get it next door? And they said, sure. And so we were able to get it up into my mom's garden, and lo and behold, it landed here, which has a nice view of a vineyard across the street. It has a nice view of the garden. And we were able to finish it off with some corrugated metal and some free windows that we had around and we got from other people. So all told, this particular setup, as far as the greenhouse structure, and actually with both doors on it, there are 2 storm doors on it, was maybe $100. So if you're looking to do gardening on a budget, that's something else to consider too, is to look around, make friends. You know, I've mentioned before, make friends with your neighbors. Make friends at the, you know, at Goodwill or at Habitat for Humanity. And you can go and find, or even the dump or the recycling center, you can find a whole host of things. Now that I'm thinking, you know, Facebook or Craigslist has a listing of free things that you can get off people a lot of times. So that's really cool. So that's the awesome part about January. So you can perk and plunder and plot and just kind of plan out your garden depending on where you live. Now, something else that I like to consider when I'm putting things together is, how much will I grow from seed in my greenhouse? How much will I get as plants from the store? And then how much do I actually want to put into kind of decorating? Now, we'll get into a little bit more of what else to get for your greenhouse if you're going to do that. But if you're not going to grow your plants, that's fine. But know that sometimes, like especially this last year, the variety of plants may be slim just because more people might be buying them. So I know when I was looking for some plants at my local Jerry's Home Improvement is like a Lowe's or Home Depot. They were out of a ton of plants, like weeks, if not over a month before the end of the season. And it looked like it had been picked over by hyenas. And so if you are able to get your plants and grow them yourself, you'll be able to get some more variety, I think. But along those lines, if you want to kind of beautify your garden area, you can do that by, like I mentioned, using flowers, or you can do some decorative things. Now I had ran across a few people that actually, there's a man that I got to know named Jim Seuss and his wife, she did bakery items and he did metalwork. In fact, I think he's still doing metalwork, which is awesome. But we ended up having an event at their property, and Jim and Stephanie Seuss, hi, if you see this. But I was able to buy this metal. It's metalwork that he had made. I want to say it's laser cut, but I've had this now probably about 15 years. And it's steel, and it's been coated with this paint, which it's lasted a pretty long time. And it's just a simple stake that I can put in my pots. Something else I got was this little water spout or a water bucket. Now this, I think I got it like Goodwill for like $1. I do Goodwill and I don't like to spend a whole lot of money. So that's why I looked at this and I decided I'm going to paint it. And I initially had painted it a gold color and it was getting old and yucky. So I painted it yellow just to spruce it up. So having these garden stakes can kind of be fun, and depending on what your style is, you could change it up, change the colors or whatever. Something else that Jim had made was in a little bit different route, was a turtle. And so having just some fun things that you can look at and enjoy your garden even more is kind of fun. Now, the other thing is I've been wanting to add pollinators and some wildlife to my garden. So in addition to thinking of bees and butterflies, and even bats, bats, you can have little bat houses on the side of your home or even your greenhouse. That's something to consider too. But getting, you know, the shepherd's crook stakes that you can actually have bird feeders hanging off of is a really kind of cool thing to allow birds to come in and kind of investigate your garden too. And having all these different critters around helps your garden in a ton of ways. Now, the pollinators, like the bees, we think of bees as pollinators, but really butterflies and bats, they are too. And so having habitats for all of those animals really helps your garden. And I saw that firsthand when I had my first set of bees a couple of years ago. It's been about 10 years ago now. I was living on 40 acres, about 10 minutes from where I am now, and it was in the woods, and I just wanted to see I wanted to learn how bees grew and how they affected things. And I had a smaller garden, and I found that my tomatoes not only grew between the bees and a raised bed that I made out of wine bottles. I made some 2 4x8 foot raised beds out of wine bottles that I stacked up. That between the raised bed that I made and the bees, my tomatoes, onions, and garlic all grew tremendously better. So something about heat and the pollinators really helped my plants a lot. So that's what you might want to take into consideration too, is how to make your plants the best. Now, you could be in pots, you could be in raised beds, you can be in the ground, but helping your plants out to get the most is really kind of important. And this is the time of year to do that. So with that in mind, as you get started in the greenhouse, like today, it's not quite 50 here in the valley in Oregon, and it's going to get a little bit cooler before spring comes officially. But the cool thing is, if you have a greenhouse, some things that you might want to consider are having a bench like we have here. Now this bench is covered in black, and there's a black heat pad, and we have an electric box here that's attached to this. Now everything being black is for a reason. It helps absorb the heat, it helps radiates the heat out. So when you're growing your plants and your soil can get warm, when you have your plants in plastic pots like this, now this one's a little bit beaten on, we've used it over and over again, and you can replace these. They're easily replaceable, but these allow the soil to come out easier to transplant. So when you have something like this on your, excuse me, on your heating pad, that helps heat the soil and help germinate the seeds a little bit more. But also it helps them to not die. So when you're growing from seed, make sure you have all the right things. If you don't have a greenhouse, make sure you have your seeds in good direct sunlight, so for the most heat, so that they can then also have the opportunity to grow. But something else you might want to consider is having water nearby, so you can always water your plants as needed as they get going along. Because when you start them from seed, you don't want to water them too much, but you also don't want to have them dry out. So having just a spare jug like we do here nearby to help that process go along is a good thing. Then you can also see we have a cardboard box and a bit of a basket over here. Now the cardboard box, again, you can use, you can plant in it, or you can use it as a means of transferring some of your seeded plants. Now this box, or the basket, I want to call it an UGG or a lug. And several different seed companies offer that particular item, and it's a wonderful product to have around to pick your produce in. It's nice and lightweight, it's really durable. You can use it in a variety of ways. So these are some basic things that you might want to consider having in your greenhouse around your garden, so that you can have an opportunity to grow a really great garden. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to challenge you guys this year. So whether you live in an apartment or in the city, or in a more rural setting, but in town, or if you live out in the country like I do, I challenge you this year to grow one new thing. Not only one new thing, but grow something. You can grow flowers. You can grow a tomato plant. You can grow asparagus. Although asparagus does take a little bit longer to grow. It's one of those items that you can grow and that comes back each year, but does take a little while to grow. But peppers, tomatillos, onions, garlic, all those wonderful things you can grow in a variety of places, in small spaces or in large. So I'm going to challenge you guys to grow something, to grow at least one thing, and also check out any of the seed catalogs that I mentioned, like Burpees, or Grays, or Gurneys, or Territorial Seed. All of those are great sources for you to go to get some seeds. And so with that in mind, if and when you do get seeds, the other thing I'm going to point out is you may want to have a place where you can keep your seeds. Now, my seed stash is rather small, I'll say that. And it's not exciting looking. But again, it's a little box that I can tote around and have a bit of access to. So you can see I have some packets of seed here, but I also have some containers. Now, we have some flowers that grow wild out here called Columbine, and they're really pretty. And so I have some Columbine seeds, and I have some Lupine seeds, or Lupin. Like, I've labeled these Columbine and the year 2009 and purple. I think they're purple, but because they're from 2009, the likelihood of these actually producing are, I think, fairly slim. Because, I mean, they're, what, 12 years old now? But we can always see how they turn out. But I was able to get a fair amount in there for when I got them. And I have a batch in one of my potted plants. I have a grape out here that resides with some columbines. But I also have some lupines, and these are a little bit less. You can kind of see in there, but they're from 2020. So if I plant these again this year, they should come up good, and they should come back, which is a helpful thing to have. Now, I have also some Nigella. Now, this was something that you can get Nigella probably in a lot of places. But part of the reason why this is special to me is because I happen to go to England, Ireland, and Wales a couple years ago, about 3-4 years ago now, on a trip. And I was able to go to this one little house, this little cottage that was really pretty awesome. And I happened to get some seeds there that they were distributing. And Nigella was one of them. And I gave them to my mom, again, as a gift, because she likes planting flowers. And so these are direct descendants from the seeds I got in England, from my own house. And so that's why I want to, being able to keep something like this as a memory is kind of nice too. So if you have that ability to save seeds, that's a good thing. Now, one thing I will point out that I just learned the other day. In this case, this is Walla onions, and I got these, you can see, from Territorial. If you get seeds, to be honest, I don't know about getting seeds from onions. I have not seen that. So if you can get seeds from onions, that's a good thing. I think clearly somebody got seeds from them, because that's why I have them in my hand. But some things that you can easily get seeds from are like these pole beans, or tomatillos. But you have to be able to, in order for the seeds to be used the next year, they have to be organic. So in this case, this says organic tomatillos. Okay, so I can take seeds from any, so if I plant 10 plants of these, and I get, 5 tomatillos off 5 different plants, the 5 best, and get seeds out of those tomatillos, I can replant them. Yet, what I just learned the other day, in the case of like these eggplants, at least from Territorial, if they say F1, that means I cannot use the seeds the next year because it's not organic, and they are actually considered a hybrid. So hybrid plants, there's something about the crossing of the plant that makes it more difficult to actually take the seeds and replant and have them be a viable plant the next year. So that's something to consider too when you're looking at different things. In this case, this looked like an interesting kind of eggplant to me, so I wanted to try a new one, and that's why I did this one last year. And I'll try it again this year because, unfortunately, while the plant grew really well, I ended up having some deer eat the plants. And I was like, so I had saved some seeds from last year that I'll plant again this year and hopefully have it turn out better. But again, look at things like, in this case, F1 as the territorial code saying you can't take the seeds from the plant that this seed will grow. So that's something to consider as well, is to think about what things you want to be able to reproduce on your own. So with that in mind, challenge being, get a seed catalog, check out your growing zone, check something that you can grow, and grow something new. Okay, so with that in mind, it's January. Get cracking in the garden department. And I hope you enjoyed this video today. And again, if you've been enjoying these videos and you really like what you have to see, click the subscribe button, join us, and remember, go to YouTube, check out the YouTube channel, and just see how it goes. And we also have a Gyroscope Farm at gyroscopefarm.com as another avenue for you to look at. So thanks again for stopping by, and I look forward to hearing from you. And if you have any questions, put it down below and subscribe. Toodaloo.